Welcome to Gapology Radio Podcast with authors Mark Tienes and Brian Brockhoff. We can be reached at gapology.org, and our books can be found at amazon.com.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Gapology Radio. This is your podcast on Gapology, IMBAR, and more. Let's give Mark Tienes a call and see what he's up to.
Hey Brian.
Hey Mark, how are you?
I'm great, how are you?
Doing good. I'm a little sore today.
What have you been doing?
Oh my gosh. Well, it was Julianne's birthday weekend, and we took her out and we threw axes. I don't think I told you this.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh, it was the greatest thing. It was so fun. You basically stand at the end of the a lane, and you take out all of your aggressions, all your frustrations, and you whip axes at a target.
Sounds like a great team-building exercise.
Oh my gosh, it was so fun. Yeah, we had the whole family there. But I'm a little sore today, so I'd like to stretch my brain a little bit today. So what would you like to talk about?
I think I've got something for that.
Yeah, what do we want to talk about?
So I want to cover the root solutions. So they often get overlooked. So everybody talks in gapology terms about the gaps: the knowledge gap, the importance gap, and the action gap. And there's only those three gaps. But for each of those three gaps, there's three root solutions. And I just think they get overlooked. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, for sure. A lot of times we jump into talking about the tools that we've laid out in the book, and we kind of forget to talk about the root solutions as a whole.
Yeah. All right, well, let me jump in.
Yeah, sounds good.
So let's start with the knowledge gap. So there's three root solutions to the knowledge gap, and three root solutions, as I said, to the importance gap and the action gap. So if you're taking notes, write these down. Here's why they matter. We found in our Gapology research that the winning leaders used these 9 root solutions, 3 by 3 by 3, or 3 for the knowledge gap, 3 for the importance gap, 3 for the action gap. They used these 9 root solutions to close gaps. So we identified them in the winning leaders. This was the secret sauce. This is what they were doing to close the gaps. So under the knowledge gap, the first root solution is training. And it's the most obvious of all of them. But if you have a knowledge gap, it is the first step. People learn at different paces, so we often, as leaders, overestimate what they've learned. We think because they took the class that they fully understand it. Not the case. And one of the tools we developed was the habit ladder to help leaders leverage the root solution of training and achieve habit. So that's in Gapology as well. But if you're seeing knowledge gaps, own it as a leader. You may be the issue. You have not fully trained your team, and go right back to training. So that's the first root solution, and it's quite effective. The next root solution is very interesting. So we found that teaching is a root solution to the knowledge gap. And what we found was that winning leaders viewed their role as teachers. This is a big deal. So they viewed their role as teachers. They thought that their job was to teach the team, to develop the team, and they viewed their role quite differently than the leaders that were at the bottom. So if you remember from Gapology, we took a look at the top 10% of performers. That group was a group of teachers. So ask yourself, are you the teacher you can be? And can you leverage this root solution by becoming a teacher and teaching every day, passing on everything that you can to your team, developing your team? That's the key to closing the knowledge gap right there. And the third root solution under the knowledge gap was talent. We weren't really looking for this one. It just was there. So the winning leaders closed the knowledge gap with talent. They hired more talented people. And with more talented people, with a more talented team, came less gaps, period. Less knowledge gaps. So they had better ways to find talent. They had better ways to develop talent. They were devoted to developing talent, and talent literally cures all. So the three root solutions for the knowledge gap are training, teaching, and talent. What do you think about that, Brian?
Yeah, it was interesting as you're going through this. I'm thinking that, a lot of times leaders get caught in almost a training trap. So they train and they kind of stop there. And then when they run into, problems or whatever, they go back to train, and they just keep training and recertifying, and they keep going back to that one root solution. And they kind of forget about, I think, some of these others. They forget about the teaching piece. So are we continuing to coach? Are we continuing to challenge our team, providing that teaching? And are we verifying talent? So if we're not developing the talent on the team, are we going outside and looking for talent, somebody that has transferable skills that can join our team? But I think the goal is to get to that talent level with training and teaching, certainly first, but I think a lot of times they get caught in this just training over and over again.
Yeah, no, good points. What occurs to me in what you said is that the key to closing the knowledge gap is all three.
Right.
You've got to do training. Leaders must teach, and we have to have the best talent, whether it's developed internally or hired externally.
Yep, absolutely.
Great points, Brian. Well, let's move on to the importance gap. So the importance gap has three root solutions. They are expectations, prioritization, and communication. So let's start with expectations. So this one was big. So the winning leaders were very clear in their expectations. Their teams knew what was expected. We do this index card exercise where we hand the team index cards and have them write down the top three expectations of their supervisor. The winning leaders hit it out of the park here. Their teams, 87% of the time, matched up on expectations. The bottom performers were a 14% match, not even a fair fight. So being very clear on expectations is an absolute root solution to closing the importance gap. Your team knows what's important. The second root solution is prioritization. So today, oftentimes, we heap way too many priorities on the team. What happens when they get overwhelmed? What happens when they have 25 things to work on? Do they know what matters most? So what we found was that the winning leaders had taught their teams the order, the timing, and they knew when their plate got full what mattered most. So prioritization is huge in closing the importance gap. Otherwise, the big things just fall to the side because the team doesn't know they're the big things. So we need to be clear. And the third was communication. So we found that the winning leaders closed the importance gap by leveraging communication. So their communication was consistent, and it always talked about what was important. And we found that they followed a three-step formula. They told the team what they needed to know. They told the team why it mattered. And then they told the team what they needed to do. And that created action in and of itself. So the importance gap is closed with expectations, prioritization, and great communication. Brian, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think communication is so underestimated. It really drives everything. It drives everything from the emotion that people feel. It drives their intellect, how people think about things. It drives all these things, the expectations, the prioritization, the training. It drives all this. So don't underestimate communication. Anything that's truly important, a change, anything that's driven by your purpose, look at your communication, be purposeful, be intentional about your communication. I would say this thing just drives everything.
And that podcast that we did on framing really describes how how to make your message clear.
Right. Yeah. Perfect.
So the last gap is the action gap, and it's closed with accountability, commitment, and culture. So we found that the winning leaders held their teams accountable. So it may sound mean, it may sound like corrective action. That's not it at all. They created accountability. Just like a professional sports team has a scoreboard up there, that's accountability. The winning leaders kept score, and they managed performance accordingly. So accountability was a key aspect of closing the action gap. They moved the teams to action through accountability, through many different methods. One of the greatest teams we work with had a meeting once a month, and at every monthly meeting, everyone on the team had to get up and present their results. That's accountability. That's powerful. That creates action. So don't underestimate accountability. It is needed today. Commitment. So the greatest way to create commitment in a team is by the leader showing their commitment and modeling commitment. So we found that the action gap was closed by the winning leaders actually modeling the behavior that they expected from their team. They showed great commitment to the purpose, to the expectations, etc., and their team followed suit. There's no substitute for a leader modeling great behavior. And lastly, to close the action gap, it takes culture. And culture is sort of the culmination of everything we've just talked about. It's everything put together. And it really is a culture of action. It's a team that gets things done. They know they get things done. That's why they're on the team. And the great thing about it is they get the right things done. So they're very focused on the right things. So those are the 9 root solutions that we learned from winning leaders that were far outperforming everyone else. And we wanted to share those with you today. Brian, I'll leave it to you for some closing thoughts.
Yeah, I think all of this, if we're executing it, really does create that culture of action. That's really the goal with Gapology, is to create action, the right action, the action that's going to produce the results that you're really looking for. And if your rhythm as a leader isn't driving the culture of action, I think you need to take a look in the mirror and say, okay, so where am I missing a root solution for myself, for my team? Taking that step back and looking in that mirror, I think, is sometimes very revealing that we really own these gaps. We own the knowledge gap, certainly. We own the importance gap. And our team owns making the choice to take action, but we still own the root solutions underneath the action gap.
Yeah, totally. And I will tell you, Brian, the thing that strikes me, and you and I talked about this group that we worked with this past week. They needed Gapology more than ever. Gapology and the knowledge of how to close gaps, identify first and then close gaps, is needed more than ever. Mm-hmm. Teams need that. It's driven by today's culture, by the focus on devices versus conversations with people. And it's, if you can teach your team these root solutions, you can really perform at a totally different level. So please take this, give us feedback. So thanks, everybody. Thanks, Brian.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mark. We'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, that'll do it from here. For more information on Gapology or IMBAR, head on over to our website, gapology.org. Everyone have a fantastic week. We'll talk to you soon.
This has been a Gapology production. Visit us at gapology.org.